Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to Have the Race Gone here for the first round of the VRR Super GT, the 6th season of virtual reality racing Super GT action, multi-class racing at its best. We've got a full grid in both classes here for the 300 kilometers of Fuji, the first race ever to be broadcast. If I'm not completely mistaken, here in the VRR, we are, of course, very proud to be in on the action here. Ongoing right now, I think, is a photo session, if I'm not completely mistaken, which is an explanation. Which is an explanation, of course, to why the cars are and have been still on the grid for quite a while now. But we got the qualifying set to get underway in a short matter of time, just a couple of minutes away. Then we got a 15-minute qualifying sessions. The drivers will then be off for a short break and a driver's briefing, and then we will get the racing underway. Well, just around 10 minutes to 9 Central European time. Make of it whatever you will if you're not in Central Europe like I am. It has been a long time coming here, the VRR, and I'm super excited that we have it on display and yet again can bring you more multi-class racing here from the world of GT Sport. And the VRR being one of the, to my knowledge at least, one of the oldest and also one of the biggest league organizing bodies within the realms of GT Planet, the GT Planet forums. Here we have it underway. A little mock race from a standing start, and it's Angel getting brilliantly away in the GT500 GTR. Good looking with the Coca-Cola livery, it has to be said. And a little bit of extra second. Cross 24 in third. NASCAR fan down in fourth position with the Flash in fifth. And this is, of course, only a, as you see, a one-lap mock race. Here is the lead battle with the GT300s, and that's CJ taking the lead, the Mad Greek, a man we know very well indeed, as GTP race car is making its way up through traffic. Although I'm not sure it's gonna be possible to get all the way up through before the line. And with that, oh, we've had a couple of mishaps. Certainly one there. Still standing cars and all, but being a photo session, of course. But anyways, we did have a little preview of what's to come with last weekend's final prep test session from Suzuka, which also taught us a little more about the pace of the different cars, drivers, etc. CT and GT350, yeah. Did you get a hold of a V12 Audi somehow? No, anyway, just to take you through the details of the racing here. Well, it's basically just neutral fuel and tires, which means times 1. And a safety car system that a safety car system that if I think if two or more cars have mechanical damage, engine damage, I think is required, then the safety car can be called out on track to form up the entire grid behind. And this is of course something that can greatly affect the course of the race. Of course we will get into detail more with the safety car system if it at any pace or any time becomes a necessity, so to say. As we are on the verge of the qualifying session, 15 minutes about to get underway here now. 20-minute warm-up is green. So track is of course open. First GT500s are just leaving the pits. We've got NASCAR fans streaking. Also here in the Black Rose Racing AMG, it's Ledford. We've got Weather Systems. We've got CJ GT Racer. We've got MRN Drifter. We've got Antares as well, of the Clockwork Motorsports team. We've got Formidable or Formidable as we agreed for it to be last weekend. Cross 24. So in the Black Rose Racing, but that's the GT500 Nissan. So as Tetsu notes, the schedule might be a little off here. We've got, so what is it now, 20 minutes of warm-up and then 15 minutes of qualifying. Because I'm just looking through the GT Planet thread to get a little wiser. If anything, I think I did my reading up on it, but if there's any last minute changes because of the photo session, that of course might throw me off a little. Yeah, so that's actually a 20-minute delay for proceeding, so our 20-minute warm-up session is now. Then after that we'll have a 15-minute qualifying session, and I think as much as possible will be done to keep race starting time on point. But of course a nice little look into the pace of the different drivers and cars here around Fuji. Of course a very different track from what we saw last week at Suzuka. Here is NASCAR fan sliding all about that technical last section yet again on an exit from the final corner. And GT Racer 22 in the Lexus, just edging away into first position, but not for long. Cross goes a little faster, 4/10. As a matter of fact, in the 300s, it is CJ on top at the moment in the Audi R8 LMS. Car that we've seen over several different GT3 and GT300 series to be very competitive here at Fuji, so I would expect it to be right up there with the top runners, especially with a competent chauffeur like the Mad Greek behind the wheel. This is GT Racer now having improved quite massively, but here early on in this warm-up session, I don't find it strange in any ways to see times improving quite massively over the first couple of laps as the drivers are settling into the rhythm. Something that indeed is both alpha and omega for a race like this. Much more important to have the rhythm over a stint or a set of stints even compared to that all-out one-lap pace. Of course, qualifying session also important, but with multi-class racing so much can happen. And the concentration required is just that little bit extra from single-class racing events, as GT Racer just manages to keep it under control, goes a little deep into the final corner. That is, though, a good way to get around. Oh, that's a very, very touchy AstroTurf indeed. GT Racer knows this and just keeps it wide, and that, of course, cocks up that lap, that run. Cross 24 with yet another attempt. So it's going to be an improvement on that 1:29 dead. It's over a second better from GT Racer. It's not going to be an improvement. It's right on pace. And of course, one tire compound only used here. It's the Racing Softs. So it's much about tire management. Of course, you will have the grip, but making those tires last, that's a whole other story. NASCAR fan showing that the Honda seems a little edgy. We've also seen the Lexus of GT Racer quite edgy on that final corner exit. But drivers seeming to insist to opt for some high lock percentages on those diffs on the rear. Seems a little slidey to me, but of course, if kept under control, this is a fast way indeed. Evening to Fairthinker, and as well, of course, evening to Tetsu, CJ, and Pennywise. If you're still watching, I have failed to follow tradition and welcome the early watchers. I'm so sorry, guys. I hope you've been enjoying what's gone of the weekend here at Saturday evening. That is pretty much half the weekend gone as well. And I also do wish you the best of the remainder of the weekend, of course, following NASCAR Fan. Let's just go on board. NASCAR Fan had really good pace for last weekend's test section at Suzuka. Still a little off here with a... Well, that's 1.2 seconds off pace so far. Let's see what's this one gonna be. Not the best exit from the final corner. I think that shows in the time. Well, and we have had all 6 GT500s set in times by now, I'm quite sure at least. We do have all 15 cars running. Here's the number 4 Audi R8 of MRN Drifter, or just Drifter. Let's hope it won't be too much drifting tonight. Certainly not the fastest way to get around, although it is very, very easy, all too easy actually, to get the car sliding around this final section. Very difficult, very technical, and Fuji in turn also a track that's very difficult in terms of car setup. It's a track that requires the car to kind of function in all areas. You have that technical final section, you have a very, very, very long start-finish straight, you have a couple of high-speed corners at the end or at the start of the second or the middle section there, and you've kind of got it. You've got it all. You've got those short snap corners. You've got long sweepers. It is a very difficult place setup-wise. Indeed, compromise usually rules around here. Evening, Mr. Stick, TSR Motorsports in the house. A slight improvement from Drifter, who is taking up final spot in the 300 class at the moment. Here is a GTP race car in the AMG. It's the Samsung Logitech AMG. And evening to Rapid Gator as well. No confusion about about time zones tonight. Jokes on me, because I got confused last weekend. I managed to set up everything for an hour early, basically, and so, as I said, jokes very much on me in that sense. Here is Formidable. I think just right around that's one of the Black Rose Racing AMGs. Both of them there, I think that is Damon indeed. Damon 84C. Getting twitchy on exit. It's very close between some of these 300 cars, and I do expect the GT300 class to be full of action indeed. Good to hear you worked it out, Rapid Gator. So as mentioned before, in the number 9 AMG, it's Ledford. We've got the A-Team, which I was explained is just the A-Team. It's a little humorous joke on some Canadian way of saying I'm from Canada, eh? But it's been too long since I watched Trailer Park Boys for me to have any touch of Canadian. I'm not even gonna go close to it. Here we have Antares actually going a little faster than CJ, now setting the fastest lap time of the GT300 class. did have did seem to have a very dialed car also at the test last week at Suzuka. CJ under a tenth between them, and then there's just over 3/10 in turn down to weather systems in the first of the GT500 Lexuses. So still, it has to be said, it's very close between the different manufacturers. Old GT Racer gets it a little wrong through turn 2, trying to overtake a 300 car. Got very wide indeed. Well, hello there, Wake. Hello there, Sugar Rush. We've got the candy ready. The Flash, the Kiwi Flash, if I'm not completely mistaken, is on a purple first sector. Let's see what's gonna be through sector 2. Well, it's purple by 3/10 of a second. Let's follow this lap through. It seems to be the only problem could be the impeding traffic that's in front. Although with the right amount of luck, if it's not GT300 cars, it's no problem at all. If it is, it might just be useful slipstream for the back straight. Let's see. The back straight, it actually is the front straight, I guess. So is it gonna be a new best time from the Flash? It just about is. Half a tenth up now on GT Racer. And that puts Cross in third, but just over a tenth between the top 3 cars in the GT500 class as well. This is really looking to be, unless we have someone really sandbagging in either class, it looks to be mighty close on pace alone. And then there is the whole what, Wake, you like your TSR colors? You've joined TSR, Wake. Is it now TSR, Wake? Well, that is good news. That is a good driver joining a good team. Might be slightly biased towards both, but let's go on board with Angel through the final kink of the second sector, and then down towards the chicane. And then up through this final sector, so difficult. A little off camber here, brings it in. And then this braking zone, which is in itself an exercise in trail braking, because you have to brake softly to get the car turned around. And ideally you'd use the brake to also help the car rotate a little. So what you often see is car set up with a rearwards facing brake bias here for Fuji. Although it's always a balance, because plenty of these corners just need the car to be stable on entrance, as the first and second corner as well. But that points back to my point earlier about this track being a difficult one to set the car up for. I think it very much is indeed. And at the moment, just about 7 seconds between the front runners of the 2 classes. And by my quick calculations, it's gonna make for lapping every 12 laps, more or less. And that means with the lap count, 66 laps to do here, 300 kilometers. It's gonna be around 5 lappings, I think, in the end. And the last one could be falling very close to the finish, and that could really disrupt the race. We've seen that in Multiclass racing here on the channel before. We've done the CSR Super GT series, and of course the Nuke Shot Endurance series as well. Although both the CSR Super GT and the Nuke Shot Endurance series really differ from this one on race length. I think I need a sip of water by now, but point being that these VRR races just that tad longer. And it's of course 66 laps plus that formation lap. First we have a rolling start, collective field until the final sector where the leading class, the GT500, will be allowed to just speed up from 80 kilometers an hour to 100, and from there on get that little bit of distance between the cars before it all goes green. We have qualifying live now. It's 15 minutes to make it count now for grid position, for grid order. It's Angel first out, closely followed by Antares. Of course, finding track space is really important here. That might just be worth spending a little extra time just waiting in the pits, especially if you are a GT300 car, for example, late to exit the pits. And they have to be careful here. See, battling for position already. That wasn't a touch. NASCAR fan had to get a little twitchy. Cross suffering with cold tires as well, and now side by side. This is not the kind of qualifying warm-up lap I think you'd ideally want to have. And running both classes at the same time for qualifying, of course, presents itself with a number of exactly my point. It presents itself with a number of problems, being everything we know from all sorts of multi-class racing, but when it happens under qualifying, it really takes less than nothing almost to screw up a lap. If you have any kind of traffic, it is basically impossible to set a lap. So track position really important. I think it's NASCAR fan getting quite squirmy on turn 1 exit. We're following cross 24 at the moment. As we see that, look at this. Oh, Antares with GT Racer. Antares still quite far up the order. And yeah, indeed, Tetsu already racing now. It's gonna be it's gonna be a long evening then. I think as a driver in an event like this, you just have to be able to just slightly disconnect yourself from what might be going on around you immediately, and just be able to see things from the bigger picture in order to always gain that that upper hand that it can be to just be able to follow through on a set strategy. I know drivers like Bambi spends a lot of time on preparing strategies. No saltiness to follow, we'll have to see on that. The first couple of times here are being set. Provisional pole for GT Racer at the moment clear by 4/10 over the Flash. Cross 24 in third with NASCAR Fan fourth, Angel fifth, and Street King sixth in the GT500 class. And in the 300s it is at the moment Antares in front of Damon and the A-Team. And then it's Leadfoot Weather Systems Drifter. It's a race car Formidable, and then it's CJ not having set a time yet. Let's see what the first time for CJ is gonna be as he gets across the line in, well, that's a provisional pole by almost 8/10 of a second. So good lap for the Mad Greek. Let's see what kind of craziness he can what kind of crazy things he's up to here tonight. He's improving on that previous time through sector 1. He just keeps it within the lines on the exit of turn 2. That's a very easy place to break track limits and spoil your lap. As we're on board with CJ, the exit from turn 4 also in turn very, very difficult. And then the braking zone into the chicane, clipping the apex. Still looking really solid for this lap for CJ. Didn't see what his time was, his sector time through the second sector. I do have a feeling that he is on a very good run here, and we might be looking at CJ reclaiming pole, because both A-Team and the A-Team and Antares has gone a little faster in the meanwhile. So we're gonna have to see what it's gonna be for CJ. Just a slight improvement, not enough to move up the order. It's very close as well. Top 3 in the GT300 field is just within 2/10 of a second. It's Antares in the lesser mate, the BMW M6. It's the Canadians. The A-Team here is in the WRX, and then as we just saw, it's of course CJ in the Audi R8. And then back with the 500s for a minute. GT Racer still on top, best time at the moment, 1:29.1. 2.5 up on Angel, further 2/10 down to the Flash. Then it's very close. It's just 100th of a second between Flash and Cross in third and fourth. With the 500th, the NASCAR Fan just around a second down on the pole time, so it's still very close through sector 2 here. NASCAR Fan just over a 10th up on personal best. But it seemed to me like it's not that perfect setup that we saw last weekend for Suzuka. This car seems a little twitchy. I've mentioned it before here, through that final sector, a lot of speed carried in, and does also manage to just ever so slightly miss the apex, and that's gonna impede the run down towards the line. And is it gonna be an improvement from NASCAR Fan? It is. It's fourth best. So that is that's not bad at all. And that puts the top 4 in between within half a second by now. And make that the top 5, because the Flash is back in second position. 58 thousandths of a second down on GT Racer. Those measure units on those seconds to keep my my tongue in check there. Flash purple through the first sector. Let's go back with Antares because still status quo, at least at the top of the 300 standings. So we've had soon to be 9 minutes, so just about 6 minutes of qualifying left. Hello, Road Rage dudes. Lexus on pole, looking good and looking good indeed. And although it's very, very close between Lexus and Nissan at the moment, it's too close to call anything. When those positions could still very much change, I think we still could see improvements. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a round of pit stops soon for drivers to then have one shot with fresh tires and lower fuel to be able to improve on what's said in before. Oh, you drive the 17 Barn SimSport Lexus GT500 car. Of course, I have actually seen that. And I think everyone appreciates the best of luck. That also comes from me, best of luck. And I think, I wish that everyone has fun as well. It's always something worth remembering because SimRacing tends to get serious even with a game like GT Sport that isn't a dead serious sim in that respect. Of course, it's always fun winning, but it should be the mindset that it's also fun doing, fun racing, fun just taking part. Oh, the Flash going deep into the tight chicane in the beginning of the final sector, and that is surely gonna cost. And it was a purple lap. Or just perhaps see what's going to be over the line, but it's not going to be. It's 2 seconds down for the Flash. That's a massive time loss. Still that 2/10 advantage for Antares. Still our pole man at the moment for the GT300s. No improvement on this lap. However, seems there could be an improvement on the way for the A team, but it isn't. So, just slightly down on their own personal best here. CJ, we see still very, very close indeed. Weather Systems, 4th at the moment in the GT300 Lexus. In the Setma 1 Lexus. And I mentioned this last week as well, but we just mention again that the livery game for this series is A-class. It's right up there with the best I've seen for series. I mean, some of the other series we have on display, especially the TSR, is also full of people who really take their time and put great amount of detail into the liveries. But I think I can say what we're seeing here is right up to that mark. It is very good looking indeed. Look at this car, I think. Lovely. The Formidables number 79 Lexus. Oh, with GT Racer just edging around on the entrance to turn 4. And then, of course, the optimal exit is hugging the curb on the power, letting the car slide a little to get out there and just hugging the curb, hoping to get the traction coming out of that one. Is one of the trickier corners. They're getting a little twitchy. It's formidable through the final sector, suffering a little from understeer, perhaps going a little hot into that right-hander, and now the final 2 corners. The double hairpin seems nicely strung together here. We have CJ, and that's about it. I think Rabbit Gator, we might have both Wake and Martin of the TSR team as well. But yep, CJ for sure is, and we're expecting him to do well. As always, I think I don't ever really have CJ participating in any sort of event without being a top contender to watch. And he's shown that going head to head with some of the faster guys, both in top split lobbies and also in the Audi TT Cup, where he's really delivered, and even after just popping in with late notice. So CJ certainly has the talent. Antares, though, being faster at the moment by around 0.3 of a second. No improvement here for Antares. What's going to be for CJ? It's, by the way, the last couple of seconds of qualifying here. Road Rage dudes, it's 66 laps of racing plus that one formation lap as well. And indeed, Tetsu, good point. From the Apex Endurance League, we do have Noir or Antares, or Noir Antares. I think it's easier for me to say Antares than Noir, unless I'm gonna go full baguette and say Noir. But I'm not. So anyway, indeed, Apex Endurance League. We are also gonna be showing a couple of those races, at least those that fit the broadcasting schedule, and still haven't actually failed to. Oh, there's CJ not managing to improve. Now, is it gonna be a final time? It's not, I think. And evening to Senna 2812. It is Noir on pole position in the 300s. It's GT Racer, I think, taking pole position in the GT500 class, closely followed by the Flash Angel third, followed by teammate Cross 24. Then it's NASCAR Fan in the NSX in 5th, with Street King in 6th position. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, it is Antares on pole in front of CJ. It's the Canadians of the A-team. It's almost the A-team as well. Da 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 da. Who's your BJ Baracus? We've got Weather Systems qualifying 4th in front of Formidable in 5th. We've got Damon in 6th, Leadfoot 7th. We've got Race Car in 8th. We've got Drifter in the Audi in 9th, and last position in class. So I'm gonna show you bouncing heads for a short while here, while I set up a party to have a couple of interviews, just 2 short interviews with our pole setters in the different classes. Of course, given that they're up for the task, should actually ask before saying. That's usually the best strategy. So just waiting for confirmation that our pole sitters are ready, willing, and able to do a couple of interviews. And Taurus, sure, that's cool. And yeah, NASCAR dude, half a second between the top 5 in the 500 class. That is close. That is not a lot of distance between the different cars, and that also I think is gonna make for an interesting race. Also because Fuji being one of those tracks where you can actually overtake in high downforce cars with these big braking zones. And that is, of course, naturally into turn 1, very much a scented corner. You can make some big moves happen in there, but also turns 4 and actually also turn 5. And then it's also very much possible to do a little bit of pushing without actually pushing. Sorry to all to all you wonderful Dutchmen out there. But it is very much also possible through the last sector, through the final couple of corners, especially also just setting up that run down the start finish straight. So did I mean, I did. Indeed, Navigator 6 Group 2 cars. I'll try again. And times. Still just trying to make it known for trying to make it known for Antares that I've sent him the invite for this short interview. Just want to know how the track and the car feels and what the expectations, of course, are for the race. CJ's not Group 2. CJ is in the... What, you can't see it? What? I probably have to accept the friend request, which I'm doing right now. Sorry, bouncing heads getting shown. No, he's in the GT300 car. CJ second in his class here in qualifying indeed. So I'm just gonna try again, Antares, and see if it's gonna work this time around. There it is, I think. So there it is. We have Noir Antares joining us for a short interview. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this short interview thingy here. What was your feelings through qualifyings with your BMW? Setting pole, very impressive indeed.
I actually don't know. Like, I went into this, like, I didn't have an expectation because when we were doing testing, like, we were all so close. Like, anyone from Crazy John and 18, myself, could have taken pole because it was that close. I don't know. Like, I just focused on putting some laps down, and I guess in the end it turned out good enough for pole by 0.3, which is something I can't believe.
No, it's very impressive indeed. I mean, you must have put together a pretty perfect lap, and it also seemed like you held that pole position for quite a while through. You also held fastest lap in practice for most of the session. So I think both the viewers and I are going to be looking upon you with the weighing role of favorite. But I do wish you the best of luck for the race, and thanks a lot for joining us. And of course, if you finish up there, I hope to speak to you again when the race is over. So yeah, of course, best of luck, mate, and cheers.
Thanks.
Jumping heads means we're we're leaving the party. Thanks, Road Rage. I appreciate that. As we have mentioned just before, very close, also half a second between the top three in the GT300. And as I just quickly mentioned, as we can just bring up the timing screen here for the qualifications, the qualifying session, and that's of course not taking into consideration that Angel put in a 129.4, excuse me, good enough for third place on the grid. But that multi-class racing, it's really something different. It just requires that extra edge of concentration every time you have to negotiate any kind of traffic. And what usually happens when you have the racing being spread out in both classes is that that traffic is going to be pretty frequent. Of course, it's not that big of a deal when it's only one car to be passed, but if you're coming up as a faster GT500 car up towards a bunch, let's say 2 or more, especially when it's 3 or 4 slower cars, it can be so difficult to negotiate without losing a lot of time. And that tightrope walking, always having to consider how much of a chance am I taking here against how much time am I losing against the competition. And that's something that, you know, that's a thing that goes back and forth psychologically for all the drivers in both classes as well. It's so difficult, and it's so easy just to get over eager with something, and in the end, in the long run, it is always consistency that wins. And that also means that usually it is the drivers who are able to keep their heads cool under pressurized conditions, so to say, that seems to prevail more often. A very good evening to everyone who's joined us here just after the qualifying session. We are just awaiting the final bits and bobs, the final details before we get the race underway. Not really anything to show you at the moment. Of course, I am working very much on getting a hold of a working PC, and news on that is that if everything goes to plan, I should be back with a PC by next week. I should be able to get a hold of a capture card around the 1st of the month, and from there on I'll be able to, for example, show you a little bit. I could have made a little highlights package from last week's test session or whatever, or I could have recorded the qualifying hot laps or whatever. I could have done something. I could have had one of our community members do a little video about the track guide to show whatever in the different classes, and we could have done a ton of stuff to make this little bit of time, because there's always going to be a little bit of time being spent on setting the grid, on drivers having to do whatever they have to do before the race, which is of course something that we all need to respect as well. And then in turn also to have this driver's briefing, which is important for these races in order for the race to really be able to be held safely, in the sense that it will always be pointed out to the drivers just before the race: take care, don't race with your head under your arm. But anyways, PC, capture card, and the world of possibilities that we could have. Also, just in terms of different overlays, we could show championship standings, we could show all these kind of things, pre and post race, and well, there is a lot of stuff that could be done. I am not a very good juggler, Rabbit Gator, I'm afraid. But yes, I could juggle balls, or I could pick up the guitar and sing a song. Of course, there's many options, but none of them are really. I mean, a webcam and juggling balls, that could also be funny. Now it's sounds like I'm talking about something. Also showing things such as drivers are expected to keep themselves when entering the pits in order to avoid a penalty, of course. I would also say, ladies and gentlemen, if you need to stack up on any refreshments or visit the bathroom, as we human beings have to do from time to time. So let's just have another look at the timing screen here. Of course, oh, by now it's all been messed up. I think it certainly has. So that's not really much use anymore, to be fair. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also just gonna grab this quick opportunity to... Did the stream just die? I certainly hope not. I'm just gonna refresh. But I'm just gonna quickly hop out and get the wee done and over with. And I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. So, is the stream dead for you folks as well? Please tell me in chat if there's just like some kind of connection issue thing lighting up. Well, that's... The stream might just be dead. And that means that I'm afraid we'll have to relaunch the stream. That's quite annoying. But ladies and gentlemen, hop on to the new stream in just a moment's time. We will be right back for the race of this opening round of the VRR Super GT, the 6th season.